I hate romance anime. Well, that's not entirely accurate. It's weird because I'm a Valentine's Day baby, being born on February 14th, a day known for love, so naturally you would assume that I'd love all things relating to it. So if you would like to wish me a happy birthday in the comments, I'd love to read them. And if you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. This guy clearly just doesn't watch romance anime in general, and if he does, it's just the popular stuff. Well, that's just wrong. I've really enjoyed lesser known shows like Orange, Our Love Has Always Been 10 Centimeters Apart, and the movie To Me, The One Who Loved You. From my notes, I've watched 57 romance anime, and after looking through my ratings for them, I never realized just how much I don't really like the genre. The average rating of romance shows for me is among the lowest, coming in at less than a 6 average rating. I know romance anime isn't the first genre I seek out when I want to watch something, but seeing romance being so low rated kind of surprised me. It's not my favorite like it is for many other people. I'm much more of a psychological kind of guy. It's weird because I usually have a decent time watching romance anime too. Let's put this further into perspective. According to my anime list stats, romance is among my lowest rated genres. Out of the 57 romance anime I've watched, I've given 49% of them a 6 or lower. Now for me, a 6 out of 10 is okay, but anything lower than that is very forgettable or just bad. Even a 6 out of 10 isn't that great. So seeing that half of romance is mediocre at best for me is not a good thing. There's definitely some romance anime that I've loved. I have 3 of them in my top 10 anime of all time. Your Lie in April, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, and Kaguya-sama Love is War. But there are some romance anime that I thoroughly hated. Shows like Girlfriend Girlfriend, Say I Love You, and Shikamori's Not Just a Cutie, to name a few. There are other shows that before watching I expected them to be horrible, but I watched them anyway because you never know until you've actually experienced them. Shows like Rent a Girlfriend and My Stepmom's Daughter Is My Ex. Yeah, those shows were awful. These garbage shows definitely tank the ratings, so it's not fair to say that I hate all romance. Also, in the genre's defense, I haven't watched many of the highest rated shows yet. As a matter of fact, I've probably watched more garbage than good, so I do expect the rating to increase over time. Hot take, many romance shows are just as generic as many isekai, but people don't want to admit it. Everyone complains about the various garbage isekai being released each season, but romance anime are also a dime a dozen. Most romance anime even follow a similar progression of story that isekai do. I think it's weird that people are fine with most romance anime following these exact same plot progression points, each episode's sick days, moments where they're about to kiss and get interrupted, etc. But when it comes to isekai, or any other genre for that matter, they despise those commonalities. I'm not saying that the predictable progression can't be enjoyable, it just doesn't set them apart from other shows usually. I also want to say that every genre can be extremely generic. I just feel like the general consensus allows romance anime to be that, and other genres aren't allowed to. I'm just using isekai as an example here, by the way, since it tends to be the most generic. What I'm trying to say here is give everything you watch a fair chance to prove itself, and try not to show favoritism to one genre or show over another when similar bad things can be said about both. Now, why don't I enjoy most romance shows? There needs to be more than just a basic romance story between people to make the idea interesting for me. Whether it's a story of improving oneself, overcoming fears or past traumas, or a comedic aspect, a romance anime needs something more than just the romance when it isn't currently being presented. That's why most romance shows get low ratings from me. In order to fully immerse myself into the romance genre, I chose a mixture of shows that are generally well received, ones that seem the most interesting to me, and I made sure to cover all areas of romance as best as I could. First, I looked for a popular romance anime, wanting to see if it actually lives up to the hype. Second, I wanted a shoujo anime. Picking a shoujo anime is pretty self-explanatory, but for those who do not know, shoujo works are targeted towards females. Throughout any given year, there aren't many shoujo adaptations, if any, and the ones that do get adaptations tend to not get second seasons. This is also unfortunately the case with the shoujo anime I ended up picking out. And finally, I wanted a realistic, adult-centered romance show, as many romance anime are school-themed. I'm really hoping that these 3 shows are good, having a completely open mind about them. However, going into it, I was expecting 2 of the 3 to be overrated. I know the romance anime fandom are going to say, "This video stinks! There's no shoujo romance anime showcased." I got you. So the first of 3 romance shows I decided to watch was Blue Spring Ride. This is actually the anime that I thought was going to be the best of the trio I selected. Blue Spring Ride starts off in a rather interesting way. It showcases the female lead Futaba trying to reinvent herself in high school. performing a complete social reset. She deliberately acts less feminine to repel anybody attracted to her. She doesn't want to be ostracized and alone like she was in middle school, so she changes the way she acts around others, suppressing her own personality. Other girls were jealous that Futaba was considered beautiful by many guys, which resulted in her not having any friends. With that being said, even in middle school, she wasn't really interested in anybody except one short, soft-spoken, awkward, and uncertain boy, Ko. They ended up getting close to one another, visibly liking each other, but both of them were far too shy to admit it. She ended up blowing her chance with him. Then one day, he abruptly stopped attending the same school as her, and that relationship ended on a sour note. Even with all of that being said, she would still fantasize about him, hoping that he would return into her life. Now, 3 years later, Ko has returned but is a completely changed man. He is now tall, much more masculine and charismatic, oftentimes coming off as sarcastic and rude, and goes by a new family name. At the end of episode 1, you even get to see them both confess their feelings for one another, as Futaba still wants to be with him. Ko, however, declines, stating that so much has happened in those 3 years. Both people have drastically changed, and those feelings are now in the past. Things aren't like they used to be. This missed chance for the two of them leads to a second chance at finding love. Futaba is able to fall in love with Ko for a second time. She thinks that if she returns to her former self, then Ko will notice her again. But is she actually willing to sacrifice normalcy within her daily life and possibly lose her friends in the process? Well, as we see while the story progresses, the answer is yes. Despite the fact that Ko has visibly changed due to some type of trauma that isn't revealed until towards the end, Futaba recognizes that the Ko she fell in love with is still in there. The romance is interesting in Blue Spring Ride because by the anime's end is just actually starting. I did enjoy the moments of teasing and sarcasm between the two lovebirds, each obviously being interested in the other. There are plenty of moments involving romance, but that isn't the main focus thus far, at least it wasn't for me. Blue Spring Ride has 12 episodes which are more so dedicated to change. Both Ko and Futaba are slowly changing things about themselves, and kind of reverting back to the way they were, their true selves. Ko and Futaba help each other to open up. Futaba at the start of high school does a complete social reset. However, she was fake, not being her true self, and her friendship was shallow. She was playing like a high school student instead of being a sincere one. Thanks to Ko pointing that out, she's able to be true to herself and her feelings. Ko can often come off as cruel and mean to Futaba, but the truth can hurt, and you need people in your life who are willing to tell you how it is sometimes. He is also there for her when she needs him the most. Futaba is able to find a great group of friends she can rely on, consisting of Ko, Shuko, Yuri, and Aya, who encourage her to be herself. I loved seeing Futaba change throughout the anime. There's a visible difference between the way she acts at the beginning and at the end, becoming more free and willing to speak her mind, even chasing down Ko multiple times throughout the anime to do so. She slowly reverts back into being herself again. I love the fact that she went off on her friends in episode 2, breaking off her friendship with them, because man, I hated them. It's one of those scenarios where you see a person hanging out with somebody they shouldn't, just so they are not alone. In this scenario, it's better to be alone rather than being poisoned or influenced by somebody who isn't good to be around. Ko's change is interesting as well, and in fact similar to Futaba's, stemming from loneliness. Futaba didn't want to be alone, so she sought companionship with people who weren't truly her friends, even acting in a way that wasn't truly her. Her loneliness was the result of others' jealousy. Ko's loneliness is brought on by himself. For the past couple of years, he was hiding the pain that was brought on by the death of his mother and resulted in family problems. This brought on a fear of losing others, being reminded of the pain of losing his mother, so he never truly lets himself get close to other people, nor does he open himself up to them. This prevents him from being honest with himself as he struggles forming connections with others, which is completely different from his middle school counterpart. He's also being fake, but as a defensive mechanism to protect himself from ever being hurt again, so he never gets close to anybody. At the same time, he doesn't want to be alone, hence why he's never really home at night and hangs out with people he barely knows. Throughout Blue Spring Ride, you get glimpses of what Ko's like, but never the full picture, until towards the end where he's finally done grieving and ready to move on with his life, thanks to Futaba's help. He's now mending his relationship with his family and seems much more friendly towards the friend group, which is the same as Futaba's, at the end. What's great to see is that his friends are there waiting for him to get over his trauma, while being there for him the entire time. Those are the type of friends everybody hopes to have. There's a couple of small things I want to mention before I move on to the next show. Blue Spring Ride reminds me of another shoujo work, Orange, which I watched before this. The main romance pair in Orange, Kakeru and Naho, remind me of Ko and Futaba because of their appearances being eerily similar to one another. Both Kakeru and Ko are pretty similar to each other as well. Both guys act as loners, never fully opening up until the end of what was shown in the anime. They distance themselves from others, albeit for different reasons. Each of their mother's death is a large reason for their sadness. In both Orange and Blue Spring Ride, Kakeru and Ko's friends are waiting for them to overcome their trauma, and are with them every step of the way, helping as much as they possibly can. Both anime showcase fantastic friendships, ones that everyone should yearn for and have. I would have liked to see a bit more from the rest of the friend group within Blue Spring Ride, characters like Shuko, Aya, and Yuri. There wasn't much depth shown from them, most of it being surface level stuff, but that's just a nitpick to be honest. Blue Spring Ride is also surprisingly funny at times, which made it a pleasure to watch. Overall, I give Blue Spring Ride a 7.5 out of 10. So with the popular anime, I went with Toradora. The story for Toradora revolves around two of the main characters, Ryuji and Taiga, who are immediately shown as similar to one another and are essentially destined to be together. Both of them are misunderstood and feared by others. For much of the anime, Taiga and Ryuji act as a wingman for each other, doing everything within their power to get the other person with their crush. For Ryuji, it is Minori, and for Taiga, it is Yusaku. However, love starts to blossom between Taiga and Ryuji's friendship as the feelings of others get trampled upon. Taiga never takes the hint and ruins almost every chance at one-on-one time with Yusaku. Ryuji can never get out of his own way either, never being able to take a hint as to who has feelings for him and what he should actually do or say. Throughout Toradora, you can expect extremely weird and wacky moments, led by Yusaku and Minori, tons of drama, Inko, a crazy parakeet, extreme violence, usually from Taiga, and complex moments between characters. Now, the end result of Toradora shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. It's predictable. You should have expected Taiga and Ryuji to end up together, especially since they spend seemingly all of their time together, forming a decent duo and being extremely comfortable around one another, while also feeling empty when not around each other. Not to mention the fact that there's several moments where they question if their original love interest is the right person anymore. Taiga and Ryuji understand one another, accept each other for who they are, and are there for each other when things get rough, building a dependent relationship upon each other, ultimately filling the void within each other's lives. However, I do think the ending is definitely rushed and could have been executed better in both pacing and writing. I am happy that Ryuji and Taiga now possess a relationship on equal footing, no longer being completely reliant on each other. It's no longer one where Ryuji is there helping Taiga every step of the way. He is a very nice guy who cares about others, but he'd oftentimes overstep his bounds. Taiga can now stand on her own 2 feet, signifying her independence. As for Ryuji, he no longer has to have his "I have to take care of everyone and fix everything" mentality, which is seen through his relationship with Taiga and his obsessive cooking and cleaning habits, as well as the fact that he helped his mother so much throughout the anime. He now trusts Taiga to do stuff herself, which is the start of a healthy relationship. At first, I thought the beginning of Toradora wasn't all that great, but it was definitely still watchable. I went into Toradora expecting it to be overrated, and through the first 8 episodes, I was like, aha, I'm right, it is overrated right now. However, after watching Toradora completely, I think I underrated the beginning. There was an episode that I acknowledged as the turning point, episode 9. The first 8-ish episodes provided a very wide view of the show, focusing on comedy and understanding what each character is like in various situations, building them up and adding layers to them. Those episodes are used as a setup for the last 2/3 of the anime, which explores many of the characters' weaknesses, insecurities, personality, and struggles, narrowing the view of the show. In it, we get to see every character become fully fleshed out, being the biggest reason why Toradora is so well received by most people. This allows each character to have their own chance to shine in the spotlight. The characters' reactions to things going wrong for them and having to face their fears feels real, albeit exaggerated at times, thanks to the work of the first third of the show, which builds these characters up. Toradora pulls you in, making you care about these characters as they end up changing in a period of their life that the most change usually occurs in, high school. So many different things and ideas are swirling within each character's head that you can never fully fathom what they are thinking until they bare their heart for others. These moments, the scenes where a character exposes their thoughts and feelings to each other, were the best within Toradora. The massive mood shift and seriousness in a show that for much of it is crazy made for an enjoyable watch. Toradora is most definitely a slow burn romance anime that you should finish entirely before making a full opinion on it. My opinion on the show drastically changed by its end, not only of the show, but my opinion of some of the characters changed as well. Specifically, both Taiga and Ami by the story's end became much more favorable in my eyes. Taiga at the beginning was extremely violent, loud, condescending, and rather annoying, making her unlikable to be honest. Clearly by the end we learned that she was acting out because she was worried about what others thought of her. At the same time she was fitting an image that others placed on her as the palm-top tiger. These expectations placed on her by others hurt her, especially socially, which is made even worse by her strained relationship with both of her parents. She had no clue how to act around others, so she just became what others thought of her. While she was around Ryuji, she was able to be more genuine to herself, acting like how she wanted to be. Taiga shows that she's a hard worker and a klutz. She can be a nervous wreck and even possesses a soft and kind side. The difference in how she acts around others from the beginning to the end is wildly different. Yes, she still has some violent outbursts and tendencies, but they are fewer and farther between. Thanks to the help of Ryuji, she's able to learn how to properly interact with others, and is even able to mend her relationship with her mother's family, mustering the strength to do it alone. Every classmate's opinion of both Taiga and Ryuji by the story's end changes from a fearful and poor one to one of admiration, a positive one. So I hated Ami when she was introduced, but by the end she surprisingly became my favorite character, and I wish she was used more within Toradora. At the beginning she was a bitch, acting fake, trying to win over everybody she came into contact with. Everyone viewed her already as an adult, so she acted mature, but you have to remember that she's just a high school girl as well. She's been forced to grow up so fast, but at the same time yearns for a normal high school experience and friends. Ami was the driving force for several different things that happened throughout Toradora, and by the end, she's a person who's not afraid to speak her mind, telling it how it is. She's always there to help her friends by either coming to their rescue or even just by lending an ear, especially to Ryuji. The two of them had great chemistry with one another, and Ryuji was far more open and honest around her, probably because he never saw her as a romantic option, which saddened her. I would have liked to see more from her because to an extent I felt like she was underutilized, especially since she could have offered so much more, even romantically. There's some interesting lessons you can learn from Toradora as well. I'll go over a couple of them. Embrace your flaws, they are what make you, you. True friends can help you through life's challenges. You don't always have to face them alone. Change does not happen in an instant, it's a gradual thing that takes time. Put in the effort and you will be able to start bearing its fruits. I feel like I'm a broken record because that specifically is something I say so often within my videos. Before wrapping Toradora up, I'd also like to point out that the funniest character wasn't even part of the main cast, but in fact their homeroom teacher, Yuri. She was at the center of much of the comedy, for me at least, with her usually being the butt of the jokes as she suffers from a midlife crisis. Overall, I give Toradora an 8.25 out of 10. The final anime for this video is an adult-centered anime, Wotakoi Love is Hard for Otaku, which is probably best known for the opening song and dance combination. It's super catchy, so it makes sense that it's popular. I was expecting this show to be overrated as well. Wotakoi is a show for the nerds, for people who obsess over some hobby or interest they have within their lives, sometimes being consumed by it. This anime focuses on two different couples, Narumi and Hirotaka, and Hanako and Taro. It explores romance in an adult setting, showcasing the characters' day-to-day lives and dives into each person's nerdy interests. It does showcase romance, but that isn't the only thing it focuses on. Since the anime is centered around nerddom, it's great to see the references to these other big intellectual properties like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Dragon Ball, and Super Mario, ones that I love too. Wotakoi's story focuses on the first couple, Narumi and Hirotaka, who are childhood friends and have polar opposite personalities. Narumi is an outgoing girl with a bubbly personality who hides her nerdy side, thinking it's unattractive to date an otaku. She loves manga, anime, and dating sims. Hirotaka is a hardcore gamer with a competitive edge to him, while also not caring what others think of him. He's unfriendly and seen as intimidating by others. Both people understand each other's hobbies and interests and possess similar ones, which allows them to be comfortable around one another, since they know each other so well. This, however, also makes their relationship seem more like two really good friends more than anything, but they do make a decent couple. Taro and Hanako actually seem like a dating couple. They bicker and quarrel like they are married, but quickly get over it, while enjoying each other's company, visibly loving each other. They work pretty well together, both possessing aggressive personalities. Hirotaka and Narumi, however, just seem like they're really close nerdy friends dating each other out of convenience, and so they're not alone. Hirotaka is obviously committed to the relationship, but doesn't really know how to act. He is finally able to date his first love, but his personality and dating knowledge is nowhere near the level of his gaming expertise. As for Narumi, she doesn't seem committed within the relationship, almost treating Hirotaka more so as a really close friend who she's willing to do more with. The romance between them wasn't explored all that much outside of a few short moments here and there. I would have liked to see more romantic moments between them, which I assume happens in the rest of the manga, so I'll probably pick it up soon to see for myself. Hirotaka's little brother Naoya is introduced as well as his love interest Ko later on within the show, who is essentially a female version of Hirotaka, but she's extremely shy. I didn't mind having Naoya around because he gave a non-nerd perspective within a show filled with them, which could add some decent comedy aspects. However, the romance between him and Ko wasn't very interesting, and overall it was pretty boring whenever either of them were involved. Hopefully in the manga they're more interesting and fleshed out. However, the romance isn't the thing that shines within Wotakoi, although it's decent at times. The best aspect is the comedy. Throughout the show, I'd find myself regularly laughing at the jokes. The entire cast has great chemistry, which could result in hilarious moments out of thin air. With such a small cast, each character is allowed to shine in their own way. The funniest character for me was Hirotaka, mainly because of the delivery of his jokes, since he's an extremely laid-back, unemotional person. Hirotaka is also my favorite character because he's very similar to me, besides the fact that I don't smoke at all and rarely drink. I too am usually straight-faced and couldn't care less about what others think of me. I also have a passion for playing video games, being really good at them, possessing a similar grinding mentality just like Hirotaka. I'm willing to grind anything I can get my hands on, with Escape from Tarkov being the game I'm unfortunately currently addicted to. Please somebody help me. I even ended up watching the OVAs for Wotakoi, but are they worth watching? Overall, I didn't mind them, but they weren't anywhere near as good as the actual show. The first OVA focuses on Taro and Hanako's backstory, and it was easily the best of the three. I'd highly recommend watching that one. The second OVA focuses on Naoya and Ko. I already stated earlier that I didn't really care for Naoya, and Ko isn't great either, so this episode specifically wasn't good in my opinion. Unless you love them, skip it. The third OVA was okay, but nothing special. I'd say it's another skip. If you love the characters and show, I'd say it's obviously worth watching all three, but for me, those three OVAs weren't that great to watch. Overall, a bit disappointing for the series. Wotakoi was yet another romance hit for me. I give it a 7.75 out of 10. So overall, Romance Anime went 3 for 3, with each one of Blue Spring Ride, Toradora, and Wotakoi being really good watches. They each get my seal of approval, and if you have not already, go watch them yourselves. Now, after watching all of these romance shows, has my viewpoint changed on romance at all? I'd say that the genre is still definitely not one of the first things I look to watch, but I do plan on sprinkling them in a bit more. So overall, a slight improvement, but it's not like I've suddenly fallen in love with the romance genre, nor have I become its biggest fan. I never had any malice towards the genre, and I'm glad that the anime I watched for this video were good. Thanks so much for watching. Again, today, February 14th, is my birthday, so the best present you can give me is hitting the like button and consider subscribing for more anime manga content. Follow my socials, join my Discord, wish me a happy birthday in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.